Welcome to Truth to Power for You. I'm your host, Brian Kasher. Truth to Power for You is a mini-series produced for organizers and people like you and me, people who want to improve the human condition. While the corporate media is generating profits covering the daily distraction, Truth to Power for You is about organizing for action. Our goal at Truth to Power for You is to help you foster change in your own corner of the world through interviews with successful organizers plus music and the arts for change. This episode's featured organizer is Janelle Caudle. Janelle founded and operates the Good Samaritan Society, which is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. Janelle shares what the process was like to secure tax-exempt status and a little bit about the programs operated through the Good Samaritan Society. Also featured on this episode is the first ever mass sit-in at the White House, and we also talk to organizers about why we need to organize and even form coalitions. You can help further Truth to Power for You's goals by sharing this program with your friends, by liking our Facebook page and commenting about what issues are happening in your area. No corporate funding, folks. This is all word-of-mouth organizing. Okay. So I recently asked an organizer who's worked with the Justice Action Mobilization Network, the Hip Hop Caucus, and most recently, Greenpeace USA, Nakisa Glover, why do people need to organize? Here's what Keisha had to say.
There's a systematic problem in America and across the globe that allows the 1% to profit by taking advantage of the least powerful. It is morally wrong that the people with the least impact on climate change are impacted the worst. The fossil fuel industry is making billions while devastating our world and distorting the facts. We are being sold propaganda. The truth is, the adverse impact of our dependency on fossil fuels disproportionately affects communities of color and the economically disadvantaged. In these communities, instances of asthma, respiratory disease, cancer, and other health impacts exist at higher rates. We can no longer sit back and pretend that this is not my problem. When you can't drink your water because there's a 400 million ton spill of coal ash in your backyard, when there's a cold orange air quality day that forces your family indoors, when you work every day yet still live below the poverty line, but the top 5 oil companies make $376 million a day, and year after year your utility rates increase. When we have working families forced to live in shelters, cars, or with whoever is willing to take them in, we can house them in solar-powered homes. When the unjust system of mass incarceration and unemployment for young black men is over 50%, we can provide productive lifestyles through green jobs. We can house people and put an end to involuntary homelessness. We can create jobs, green jobs, and put an end to unemployment in America. We can end our dependency on fossil fuels. We can do this, but we need your dedication to bring change home to your community.
How about that, folks? Do you have your recruitment speech ready? You just never know when you too might be able to bring somebody on board, either to your group, to an issue, or the larger coalition, the movement. Okay, Janelle Caudle is an organizer who works to improve not only the human condition, but conditions for animals too. Janelle has formed the Good Samaritan Society, which has really taken it to the next level by incorporating as a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. Let's take a look. Hi, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Sure. So, I see you around town. I see you doing photography at different community-oriented events where advocates are out, where people are coming together in different programs and different formats. And, what sparked your interest in working for the common good?
I believe my heart in working for the common good started back when I was actually a child and learning about scriptures that were that became a part of my life's blood, basically.
Sure.
And then going through some of my own struggles and becoming victorious over those. I believe I began to have a heart for people that also are voiceless. And that's kind of what brought me to this place.
We really need more people to find it in their hearts to get involved and to help. Right?
I think it comes from a real place when we can empathize with those that we represent. And the more experiences that we have, the better, the more variety we have as far as reaching people. You know, the more vast our reach can be, I should say, the more vast.
That's a really good point. You know, the more folks are involved with different groups, the more experience they have, the more they tend to be drawn into sharing of themselves, their hearts, their resources, helping those who need.
Absolutely.
Recently, you went as far as to formalize your Good Samaritan Society. Can you talk a little bit about that? How did you go about taking what was an inspiration for doing good for others and formalize it into an entity? What happened there?
I was so fortunate. I had the vision for the society, and I reached out to Mecklenburg County Bar, the volunteer lawyers program, and they approved my vision for free lawyer services. So all of the legal work for the incorporation and the 501c3 was handled by an attorney. That all the work was done pro bono. I was so very, very fortunate.
And they actually had an attorney process the paperwork to take it to the next level like that's amazing.
It truly is, and a lot of times visionary people, we're not legal people. We're not people that have maybe the ability or the education to process all of that paperwork. But thanks to the lawyers, they brought their gifts to the table and their education to the table, which allowed me to bring what my talents and my vision are to the community.
The incorporation thing is not so unreachable.
Not at all. It was absolutely free. Absolutely free. It was like I said, a complete blessing, especially for one that does not understand legalese. You don't have to understand anything. All you have to do is be willing to work with the attorney. You know, there's things that you're not completely, they're not completely doing it for you. You have to assist in the process, but it's really an enjoyable journey.
I know you've got a number of different success stories in areas that you work in. Could you share a couple of examples for our folks to get a sense of the kind of work you've done or maybe they can do?
For a number of years, I worked solely with homelessness by going into shelters, and what we did was we brought in a trailer load full of clothing for women and children to go through and get whatever they needed. This is professional wear and also casual wear, so if they were having interviews, the ladies could feel confident about themselves to present themselves well for that interview. Wonderful. Or for casual wear, so the children would not feel embarrassed and look different than other kids that they were, in school and other things with, that they did not look or appear different. So we were able to clothe 250 people at any given mass distribution event. So, yeah.
What a great use of energy and resource, right? I also heard that you had a project that you worked on with a gentleman in the Philippines.
Yes, we did.
Can you share a little bit there?
Sure, absolutely. I was brought into the life of a man that has a disease called Ankylosing spondylitis. I also share that disease in common. So we met through a support group for those that have the disease. And he, living in the majority world and not having the medication, had a very aggressive and progressive fusion. Basically, the disease, in short, takes connective tissue and calcifies it and fuses it together. So Ivanhoe had no mobility of his neck, his entire spine from here to the bottom was fused, completely fused. And then his hips were fused. So he had no mobility to move anything above his knees. And this presented a lot of challenges for him in everyday life. So a number of us from the community worked for a number of years together, and we finally in June saw Ivanhoe receive a double hip replacement. So he now is capable of bending at least at the hips, which frees his life up immensely. He also is an artist. We were able to, friends of mine and I were able to start him off as a painter. And, especially when you're that severely disabled, a person has a lot of time on their hands. So Ivanhoe began to paint, and he actually was able to make a little bit of an income that way. So, yeah, it wasn't all about the Good Samaritan Society. There were other advocates that worked very, very, very hard that helped us to get to the place that we were in. And then the Tim Tebow, he got his surgery at the Tim Tebow Hospital in the Philippines. The Cure International also helped cover some of the expenses toward the end. So it was really fabulous to work with those organizations.
You formed, it sounds like a coalition.
Yes, it's a coalition.
A larger coalition.
Absolutely.
So, we're hearing a lot these days about groups being in silos.
Oh,
where
yeah.
environmental folks kind of have their clique, and homelessness advocates have their clique.
Yes.
And, so there's all these different silos out there. And I'm hearing more and more about how groups are kind of breaking down those silos, or at least lowering them, so that they can come and work together.
Absolutely, and we need the synergistic efforts of one another.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do what we do. Working for the voiceless is challenging, and if we work with one another, we energize one another, and we get to celebrate together the victories.
Sure. I want to ask you about one more program area. I know that you work with animals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about your animal program?
Sure. It's called the Good Samaritan Animal Society. Okay. We go into kill shelters, and we represent dogs and cats that are slated for euthanasia. And we speak for them by being in videos with the animals, and we plead to the community to foster, to adopt, to rescue. And then I've just recently developed a program called Foster Coalitions that allow the fostering responsibilities, instead of one person doing all of them, a group of about 5 different people coming together to form a coalition will open the doors for more animals to be saved. And being that voice for these precious little beings that are just, created by the same hands we are.
Absolutely. I've got really one final question.
Sure.
It is kind of our punchline, let's say,
Sure.
for this program. And I really wonder, right, what about that one person who's sitting out there listening to this program, who's inspired but is a little bit hesitant to jump in? They're just not sure. They've got something in their heart. It might be environment. It might be animals. It could be gerrymandering, for that matter. What kind of advice would you give to that person who has it in their heart but just hasn't broke the ice yet and kind of jumped in? What would you advise that person?
Wow, that is a challenging question because it's so involved in the answer. But what I would say first and foremost is, if it is in the heart, you must move forward in the calling that has been placed there. Because I believe personally that as we've been given, you and I have been given dark eyes, and the colors of skin that we have, that also our vision there was a vision placed within us for what we are supposed to do.
Oh.
And it's very innate. It's innate. It's not something that we can walk away from. And so I think acceptance, first of all, that whatever it is lives in the heart. And then just have courage and bravery and move forward in that vision. No matter what is said around you, just keep focused and move forward, knowing that you're being true to what was placed within you.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Well,
Really.
And I think along the way, people will come along that will assist. I have a disability, for goodness sakes. Yet, I think one of the reasons I really consider it an honor and a privilege to be here, because I can speak to anyone and say, if I can do it, you can do it. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. It's if you have that vision within you, you must go forward. You must go forward, and that path will be a beautiful and unique journey, filled with a lot of expected and unexpected things.
Sure, right on.
It's an awesome place to be, and you'll never have peace until you follow it, so you might as well do it
there's
young.
the words of wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
might as well do it and accept it for how it is.
Right on. Well, Janelle, it's about the time that we have for tonight, so I want to say thank you for your life's commitment to working for the common good. You do so much good on earth, and taking the time out to come over and share your vision and your heart with folks it means a lot. It means a lot. It means a lot to us.
I consider it such an honor to be here and to be asked. Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
Well, thank you. And let me ask, is there a specific way, is there a website or a Facebook that you would like folks to contact you? How could folks get a hold of you if they'd like to follow what you're doing, or maybe even volunteer?
Oh, that would be fabulous. We need as many advocates as possible.
Right.
Right now, I only have Facebook. So Facebook pages, the Good Samaritan Society is more centered on human rights and the environment. And then the Good Samaritan Animal Society is all about the animals.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, folks, forming a 501c3 tends to be a more advanced method of working for change. But there are many modes of organizing, like bringing water for people to drink at a march or a rally. It needs to be done. Speaking at a city council or even a county meeting. Or what about asking a friend to send a letter to Congress on an issue that's important to you? It's all organizing, folks. Okay, up next is a quick look at a meeting where the organizers brought together representatives from a number of groups to foster a fusion movement, a movement where everyone works on their own issues, but also works together, forming a community through coalition building. Let's take a look.
Activity in the fall, because there will be an election in November around city council.
What these groups are trying to do with this meeting today was find a way to work together. In all honesty, we will never have the victories we need if we are divided, if we're working in our own silos, if we're working as individual groups. What we're trying to do right now is find a way to work together to achieve those bigger victories.
Not just these. These are for
The event came together because there are devoted people in this community who believe in equal rights for people, who believe in basic housing for everyone, who believe education is important for our future, who believe that green energy is the way we should be going, not relying on coal, not relying on dirty energy to continue to pollute the planet. And we all care about it. And we aren't a minority, we are a majority.
We have something in here about redistricting.
What we want is a moral America that's based on love, compassion, empathy, and fairness, as opposed to a country that's being ruled by basically a plutocracy and an oligarchy that's going to hurt millions and millions of families, take away their health care, take away their right to work, and pollute our air and water, and we got to do it peacefully, and we have to do it with our own agenda, our own plan, and we're going to be developing that over the next few weeks.
Voter registration, okay.
Today was a step, the next step to bring people together. Charlotte is the hub for the new civil rights movement. We have great energy in the room. We are together as one. We have laid out a plan for steps of moving forward. We're going to concise those steps, and we're going to have a clear, direct path of winning for justice, equality, for humanity of all.
I can tell you a lot of good has been accomplished since that meeting, folks. There have been a significant number of rallies at Senate office buildings, movie nights where documentaries are viewed and then folks talk about it. There's been government resolutions and more. Organizing works. You know, one of the most successful organizing rallies happened where 80,000 people marched in the People's Climate March in D.C. Then, as many marchers as could conducted a mass sit-in surrounding the White House. We filmed the sit-in at the edge of Lafayette Park, right in front of the White House, with the president inside. You can turn up your speakers for a better feel on how it felt to be with the 80,000 plus people, speaking truth to power, but hey, not too loud, okay? We'll be ending this episode with Annie DeChant's song, Out There, with credits immediately after the historic White House sit-in segment. So we'll see you soon, folks. You know, hope you're getting the vibe, and hey, don't forget, don't hesitate, get out there.
They'd never get that airplane off the ground till one morning out in Kitty Hawk in that Carolina sky, she flew 12 seconds before she came back down. Then people thought the sky was the limit, that going to the moon could not be done. But when the eagle landed, that brave space cowboy took one small step and proved everybody wrong. Out there, dancing on a wire, out there, running through the fire. They ain't afraid to fall, they live to risk it all. If you're gonna do a lot, then you gotta be a little out there. A seamstress from Montgomery, Alabama, stayed seated on a bus and took a stand. That brazen little move caused a revolution. She broke every boundary when she wouldn't budge an inch. So if you think that you won't make a difference, that what you're trying to prove is too bizarre, remember it's the dreamers, the do-or-die believers, that march right into history just being who they are. Out there, dancing on a wire, out there, running through the fire. They ain't afraid to fall, they live to risk it all. If you're gonna do a lot, then you gotta be a little out there. Busting down the fences, out there, damn the consequences. Let's live to risk it all, and don't be afraid to fall. If we're gonna do a lot, then we gotta be a little out there. People thought they were off their rocker.
Nice.
Thank you.